It didn't end last year in March when a criminally negligent fireplace rebuild burned our house down. We are now rebuilt in our grand new digs, and it is splendid. And I have my own custom podcast room, and this is the debut of my new podcast room and my new I Love Me wall. I Love Me wall's not quite complete, but we're getting our stuff back from the restoration company tomorrow. So thank you for all your prayers and support throughout that. We first, when the house did burn, all our neighbors showed up, uncalled, unbidden. Neighbors we had never met showed up, spent the whole day moving our stuff. It happened right after a Christ Connection chaplaincy service on Sunday morning. So we got out, we got everything out. The chimney actually started smoking, again, because of a criminally negligent build. And our neighbors just kept moving everything. One of my neighbors skid steered my gun vaults to the guest house, because we have a guest house on our property. So we moved right in there because we had just had a lady who had gotten divorced with her young son just move out after a year. So it was very much serendipitous. Of course, I think that is really divine providence. But anyway, it worked out great. The first thing we did after the complete demolition of the house was bless the ground in an Ndaa Apache holy ground ceremony, and because we wanted to consecrate the ground to God and our family. And so the 4-color black, blue, yellow, white from night to day sunrise colors that the Apaches use. Ribbons are still all flying, which is a great sign. And then when we had the initial structures up, the raw door frames, we wrote scriptures on all the door frames. And then after that was covered up, we then, I smudged the entire house, and then we put up, I had gotten my wife a silver mezuzah, which contains the Deuteronomy script, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. Love your Lord your God with your heart, mind, might, and power, and love your neighbor as yourself. And also a olive tree crucifix, both from Jerusalem. And then we hung those. Of course, the mezuzah goes in the doorpost, and the cross goes right above the door as well. So that completed and sealed and consecrated the house and our family to God. If you want to see that journey, you can see that on patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather at the Point Patriot level. The final consecration showing the mezuzah and cross will be this Friday. And you can look back at the other ones where we've done the holy ground and we've done the scripture writed as well. If you want to follow us on that journey, that's patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather at the Point Patriot level. So really exciting show today. The title being Not Two Masters, strip 224 from the NDAA. And that is referring to the new National Defense Authority Act. And of course, the scripture there is Matthew 6:24 and Luke 16:13, where Yeshua says you can't serve two masters. Either you'll hate one and love the other, or love the other one and despise one. And Congress votes today on the National Defense Authorization Act. And the Section 224 is the crucial section, and it hands one unelected executive agent. So you can't, it's another unnamed executive bureaucrat, just like you can't get through to the FBI, the CIA, they're all under the executive. But one agent, the power to fuse the U.S. military with a foreign one, with Israel, not aid, not even an alliance, fusion. Buried in the $1.15 trillion bill is in the text. Massey was against this. But of course, he is out because he was ousted by Israeli foreign money. And so you should call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Ask for your representative. Say, all you got to say is one line: strip section 224 from the NDAA. We are a sovereign country. They do count every call. And I've already posted this on my X, Twitter, and a lot of people have already called, and I really appreciate that. That is really, really important to do. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed Section 224 was his plan in a letter to Congress, thanking them for doing his bidding. Of course, Congress should not be doing the bidding of any foreign government. They should be doing the bidding of the American people, just as President Trump should be doing. But this is even worse. We're giving all this aid. We're fighting Israel's wars for them. And now Netanyahu and Likud and the greater Israelis want to make this a formal arrangement. So they are voting today. So it's really crucial to not serve two masters and to strip 224 from the NDAA, the National Defense Authority Act today. So call 224-3121 and say strip 224 from the NDAA. Very, very important to do. Also, it is the anniversary of the Battle of Midway. Midway happened June 4th to June 6th. And of course, it was an inflection point, a turning point in the Pacific War against the Japanese. It was the first time we beat the Japanese during World War II. It was the first time the Japanese ever retreated. In fact, it's the first time the Japanese retreated ever. The Japanese had never been beaten ever before. And so this was very significant. And I like to show you what good intelligence really can do, because we are overwhelmed with propaganda masquerading as intelligence today and fake news as well. But the naval intelligence officers Leighton and Rochefort broke the Japanese code by sending a fake message that Midway's water plant was out. And then the Japanese retransmitted AAF is saying their water plant is out. So they knew then that Midway was coded AF. And so they knew that they could then build their strategy, which Nimitz did, to lie in wait for the Japanese. And it was a massive success. And it wasn't even winning the first part. The whole battle turned around within hours. And the two of the carriers were sunk. The Japanese carriers, the Japanese naval fleet and naval aviators were devastated. This was a combination of excellent intelligence. Leighton and Rochefort, the code breaker, were only 5 miles, 5 degrees, and 5 minutes off. The intelligence doesn't get any better than that. And Nimitz daring to go after the Japanese fleet was incredible. And of course, the movie to watch is Midway, the new one, not the old one. The old one's okay, but the new one is very accurate and excellent. Also covers Pearl Harbor, Battle of Coral Sea, even the Doolittle raid is in there as well. So excellent. And I will have my family watching that. Why? Because they learn history by watching in a dramatic fashion. That then encourages them to read. So we have to remember times like this and honor those, not simply because it was a turning point, but because that's what really good intelligence can do. And we really don't see that as well. So High Cropman says, today is also the anniversary of the Killdozer. I don't know what that is. You'll have to explain that one to me. But lots of great comments on Tuesday's show with John Bray. A couple of lunatics, but, I always get that. But, a lot of people saying that was the best interview ever. I certainly agree. John's a genius. He really put all the pieces together. And I waited again because this is not a breaking news show by any means. It is an intelligence report And since last September, all the pieces have been beginning to fit excellently there together. Hey, also remember to go to beready123.com, beready123.com. You can get an Iridium 9555 phone, which is over my right shoulder on my new I Love Me wall. Let me know how you like that. But you can also just get Faraday bags as well with these new magnetic snaps that I really like. It's much easier to use. Generators, all kinds of stuff. And you can use the code Prather for 10% off there as well. So go to beready123.com, please. They are a great sponsor of the Prather Point, and I'll try and get Tina Blanco, the founder of the Sat Phone store, back on here soon. Besides the anniversary of Midway happening today, couple other stories. Putin is kicking off his Davos-like forum, and it's under heavy Ukrainian drone attack. While there are American government representatives there, and Candace Owens is there. Three districts of St. Petersburg were targeted overnight by Ukrainian drone assault. The BBC writes that mobile internet was disrupted, and St. Petersburg Pulkovo Airport was temporarily closed, while some regions of nearby Latvia and Estonia also issued air raids. President Zelensky boastfully owned up to it after Kiev had already come under heavy Russian bombardment this week, saying Ukraine's plan for long-range sanctions is being implemented exactly as needed to bring peace closer. Of course, this is nothing about peace. And Ukraine is called the new Israel. You remember the Azov Nazis getting Tabor bullpup rifles from the Israelis. So the Ukrainian attack drones opened this year's Russian St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, successfully striking the city's fuel and oil maritime terminal. Among the dignitaries attending this year's conference is Rodney Mims Cook Jr., who is overseeing President Trump's controversial planned White House ballroom, although he wasn't listed on an official State Department list, and also Candace Owens, who's expected to speak on balancing parenthood in a large family with a successful career, which of course is a great subject for her to talk on. But the Christian expression and heritage here is unmatched. And remember, this is really why, at the satanic source level, why the deep state, the CIA, are always after Russia, because Russia is connected to the Russian Orthodox Church, actually in Kyiv. Of course, Zelensky has locked up priests and closed churches because we're now supporting the Nazis and supporting the Satanists. And of course, he was a cross-dresser, which goes along with Satanism as well. But Ukraine drones are targeting American personnel, and I'm sure they'd love to actually hit Candace, and probably don't care about hitting Cook Jr. As well. But this is the forum. Russia is asserting itself as a more traditionalist, family-oriented, anti-tranny country. And so really, again, as I'm always saying, Russia is really our ally, not our enemy. We are in a legal, moral, ethical, nonviolent resistance movement against our own government in our own country. So that is very significant as well. See somebody here on X. I don't know why I can't see. Oh, there it is. Joe Cosby. Good afternoon. Earl Jackson. Glad you're back in your house. Yeah, it's a brand new house because so I'm, because I'm a veteran, I've had USAA for 40 years. I've heard some bad things in the last couple of years, but I'll tell you, USAA was fabulous. They took great care of us. They gave us some money to go buy clothes because all our clothes smelled of smoke. And they just have been alongside us every step of the way. And they said, really, the house is really too beat to rebuild. So rebuild from the ground up. And so that's what we've done. My wife got to design this beautiful house. And so we are very, very blessed. But it was very important to make it sacred and consecrated to God as well. So I just also wanted to mention that it's bad news for the cartel war. The CIA is reportedly doing assassinations in Mexico. From my 1980s initial experiences with the CIA, Contras, cocaine, building the Clinton cartel, to my fast and furious DEA whistleblowing, I guarantee that once the CIA is in, ethical warriorship is out. The cartel war should be left to the military, which has law of war accountability and ethics, although we're not seeing that much, where we're shooting guys in the water, which is a total violation of laws of war. Recall, too, the revelation that retired DEA agent Hector Berreyes alleges that CIA operatives, specifically former agent Felix Rodriguez, were involved in the torture and murder of DEA agent Enrique Kika Camarena in 1985. And I was trying to extradite Miguel Caro Quintero, brother of Rafael, who tortured and murdered our agent. Berreyes claims Rodriguez participated in the interrogation to prevent Camarena from exposing U.S. government connection to drug cartels. And you've seen my peerage come on the show and confirm that anonymously, including the use of cartel funds to support the Nicaraguan Contras. So that really ties into my career as well. And so while I'm in favor of the cartel wars and getting the military involved, remember I was dual credentialed as a DEA special agent while I was a DIA intelligence officer, largely because of the 80s of the war on drugs, because the money, chasing the money. I really have always seen bad involvement from the CIA, which I know, it's very popular to see on YouTube, all these ex-CIA guys and all these spec op guys who then went over to Ground Branch. But that is, and something I've had some of them on the show, Dale Comstock, for example, ex-Delta, ex-CIA Ground Branch on the show recently. But I do not have confidence that the CIA can ethically carry themselves in a drug war, where the military, because of it's a profession and there are professional ethics, and most of the military are moral, religious people as well, I'm much more confident in that. So I'm kind of sad to hear that. But I want to get to my special guest today. Dr. Eugene Lipov is the co-founder and chief medical officer of Stella. He is a board-certified medical doctor with over 27 years of clinical experience and got his medical doctorate degree from Northwestern University. In 2006, Dr. Lipov pioneered the use of stellate ganglion block for treating post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and adopted it to advanced protocol now known as the dual sympathetic reset. Dr. Lipov's passion for helping trauma victims stems from his own personal and family history of coping with PTSD and depression, and he understands the impact that trauma can have on one's physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and strives to provide compassionate, empathetic care to his patients. He's out of Chicago and treats patients at Stella's flagship location in Westmont, Illinois. And so he's going to be talking about PTSD equals PTSI, what that is, and digital brain poisoning as well. Dr. Lipov, welcome to the Prather Point.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you, sir. I hope you enjoy my parade of challenge coins.
That's impressive. My challenge coins haven't gotten back from the restoration yet, but that's pretty cool. Are you a veteran?
No, sir, but I've had the honor of taking care of a lot of SOF guys and other personnel. So I have my own I made my own challenge coin, even though I've never served the military.
No, that's excellent. That's very common to give a challenge coin. That's, I've all the ones I have, I haven't been in all those units. I've trained most of those units, but that's very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy guy. Hey, how was France?
France was great. It was very lovely.
Did you get to go to Normandy?
No, sir. We were there only for a day, and then we went from there to Barcelona, from there to Madrid. Went back to Barcelona and flew home.
Because everybody tells me, I've been to France long ago, but not to Normandy. But a lot of people say the best part is Normandy because the Normandy folk are so grateful and take great care of the cemetery. With June 6th coming up, D-Day.
Of course.
I was just hoping that you'd be able to make that. But yeah, I really, of course, I'm very familiar with PTSD. I've got it. We've all got it. But I wanted to really get into your work. And first, could you explain a little bit about the PTSD to PTSI, what that is and what that connection is?
Perfect. I do have one question for you. It'll help navigate this. Are you familiar with General Peter Chiarelli?
No.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
Anyway, I'll tell this whole story. So basically, the way I look at the word is all psychology is biology, meaning
Yes.
you can diagnose things like people talk about PTSD being an invisible wound. To me, it's invisible if you have the wrong scanner. If you have the right scanner, like functional MRI, PET scan, advanced scanners, you can actually see PTSD. And the way PTSD looks like, it's activation of the amygdala. Amygdala controls all the anxiety, basically. Anxiety, fear, all of that. So there was a guy, he's still alive, Frank Ugbert. He's now, I believe, 88. He was a #2 man in NIMH, National Institute of Mental Health. So he was part of the committee that named PTSD. This was 1980. So as the time went by, he found out that PTSD disorder is stigmatizing. So a lot of the guys really hate being called cuckoo in the head or having a disorder. So he started the movement. He wants to call it PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury. Injury means biologic. You can diagnose it and you can treat it biologically, right? So if you think of it like that, that makes sense.
That's brilliant. I love that. And also, isn't that pretty? I'm an old guy, I retired in 2009, but isn't that kind of groundbreaking to diagnose PTSI as biological? Is that new?
It is groundbreaking. I mean, he came up with this concept in 2012. We still try to break. Okay. We're trying to still break the ground. Well, keep in mind, Dr. Librazan, one of the great researchers in PTSD, who's still alive also, has shown that on a brain scanner, 1984, that amygdala lights up like a candle in PTSD. Wow. 1984, we're still talking about this. So let me tell you what happened then. So Frank figures out that this would help the patients. He gets hooked up with Peter Chiarelli, a 4-star general who was in charge of suicide prevention for U.S. Army. Okay. 2013, right? So 2013, Peter Chiarelli, a 4-star general, and Frank Ugbert, amazing psychiatrist, who came up, by the way, his claim to fame, he came up with the term Stockholm Syndrome. You probably heard that.
Well, of course, yes.
So that's his thing. So, I mean, he's a big guy in the space. Anyway, they both went to the American Psychiatric Association. They go, hey, we need to change the name. Peter is not a doctor, right? He just talked to the soldiers. And they tell him uniformly that, if you change the name to PTSI, we're not going to be killing ourselves. So he goes to APA, American Psychiatric Association. They go, change the name. They go, we're not going to do it. Never mind the reason they gave, which is bullshit. Anyway, From there, they went on to basically, they both gave up. They go, it's like you can't make a progress. So somehow or other, I met with Frank, amazing guy. He basically passed this hot potato on to me now. And I mean, he's kind of getting older. So what I've done with that, in 2023, I did a study. I asked 3,000 people, what would happen if the name can change from PTSD to PTSI? So here's our results. And I published that in 2023. So 1, people will seek more care. 2, they will have more help, more hope that there is treatment available. 3, it'll take away the stigma. And we know stigma kills. Nobody wants to be a cuckoo head, so to speak. So people go seek care and they get to say, hey, it's biological. To me, there's no difference between broken leg and PTSI. It's the same thing.
Right, yes. No,
right? That makes sense.
So first off, for the audience, let's back up and explain what Stockholm Syndrome is. Anybody who's done hostage rescue stuff knows it's where the hostage identifies with the hostage taker because they have power over them And can you
falls in love, so to speak. Yeah. Or they have bonding. But, again, I'm not trying to take away from PTSD. That's why I wasn't getting into it. Anyway, so the point is, it's a well-known syndrome. Frank is very famous. We can agree on that.
Right, right.
So,
But
let me tell
the
you.
other thing, you're exactly right, because heck, when I went to airborne school, there were people with stress fractures who weren't admitting that because they wanted to get through. I mean, I got up and walked away after a parachute jump when I was with Special Forces on a broken leg, and nobody looked at me like, "Wow, look at the lieutenant," because that's what we just did, and those are
Right.
legit injuries. But the stigma that comes with, because it can also, if you admit that there's something psychological, that could easily affect your career and your evaluations.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. You lose your promotions. You know more than me about it.
Right.
Anyway,
Yes.
so let me tell you what happened after that. So then I took that study, and in order to change the name technically in medicine, it's called DSM, which is Diagnostic Statistical Manual. That's like the Bible. So in order to show it, you need to be able, in order to change the name, you need to show that current name causes harm. Okay, and it's simple. So I've sent all the information in. I sent my study in, and I said, this is what's been going on. And they looked at it 3 months later. They go, we're not going to do it. We will not change the name because you don't have enough information to make that change. So what I'm trying to do now, and that's part of the reason I'm so excited to be on your podcast, I'm trying to do a bigger survey. So 3,000 was not enough. I want to do 100,000. So I have a survey going on now. There is a website. It says it's PTSI.com. It's PTSI.com. Really simple. So
say that one more time. Say that one more time.
It's PTSI.com.
Okay, somebody on Rumble put that in the chat, please.
Yeah, it's PTSI.com. So what I would love people to do, as many as humanly possible, I'd like as many people to take a survey. I'm not telling you how to fill it out, but I think it's people who have PTSD, which is at least a quarter of our military personnel, will probably say, I don't want to have a stigma associated with having mental health. I think mental health and stigma is a very bad combination because stigma kills. People take their lives. That's not appropriate. And considering how many guys are dying right now, guys and women, not appropriate. Not especially if we can do something about it. So anyway, so that's what I'm trying to do today. So that leads us to the next thing. Why did I even get involved in this? I'm an anesthesiologist, pain guy, right? So I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a huge fan of psychiatry in general. And I'll tell you the reason.
Well, yeah. Yes. What's the reason for that?
Yeah. So my father was a flyer in World War II, right? So out of his squadron of 10,000, 100 made it home. He was one of those guys. So he comes home, he gives PTSD. It's called secondary PTSD. He gives this to my mother, right? So my mother saw a psychiatrist, and she killed herself the next day. I'm not a fan.
Wow.
Right? You can see why I'm not a fan. So current psychiatric therapeutics, something called gold standard therapy in the VA, you probably heard that term before.
Yeah.
That's pharmaceuticals and psychotherapy. How effective do you think that is? What kind of number do you think you can give me?
0.
No, it's not true. Nothing is 0. Placebo is 35%. Come on now.
The anesthetizing through big pharma is, my complaint.
Anyway, so let me tell you the story.
It's treating symptoms, not source.
That's correct. And we'll talk about that in a second, but let me tell you the numbers. So there was a publication 2011 in JAMA, which is a big medical publication, by Dr. Hoge, Hoge, 2011. And he looked at, he was a colonel in Walter Reed, big institution, right? Big colonel. He says efficacy of current therapeutic gold standard is 40%, 40. Keep in mind that placebo is 35%. So it's garbage. My big problem is compliance. Taking drugs make you feel bad. People don't want to do it. Also, keep in mind further, one of the most commonly used drugs in the VA system is called atypical antipsychotics. It's a class of compounds. It's a very commonly prescribed drug, and it's very expensive. I think it's $8 billion a year we're paying out for that. So here's what they do. Number one, they don't help PTSD. Number two, it makes you impotent. Number three, it makes you fat. Number four, it gives you diabetes. Number five, 1 out of 1,000 per year. So 2 years, 2 out of 1,000, heart stops and people die. And number six, my favorite, increase the chance of suicide by a factor of 3. Great drug.
And so that's part of that. So I've never bought that 22 a day number.
It's way too low. It's probably 40 is my guess. A buddy of mine did the study on that. There seemed to be a debate. Is that 22? Is that 40? I mean, how do you define, a shotgun to the head is probably suicide, right? Pretty straightforward. However, if you're driving by yourself in a car and you hit a tree, is that a suicide? Is that an accident? Right? I don't know. It depends how you count it. Those numbers are hotly debated. But I'll tell you one thing. Considering my background is my mother, and part of the reason I like military is because of my dad, 1 is too many. If it's a continuous thing.
What happened to your dad?
He was a broken man after my mother killed herself when she was 52, and he died about 18 years later. But he was a broken man. They were both doctors, but after the suicide, I was going to be a surgeon. That's why I left surgery. I went to become an anesthesiologist. And my father basically, that completely ruined him. He was a really smart, strong guy. It ruined him completely.
So 100 came back for the 10,000 from his unit.
And that's what got him.
For the audience, if the audience doesn't know, the Army Air Corps in World War II were heroic, and the casualty rate was catastrophic.
My father was in the Red Army. They got more casualties because those guys.
Your father was in the Red Army.
Red Army. His job was great. He would fly his plane, and they had really shitty torpedoes. You couldn't drop the torpedo from high. It was naval aviation. He had to go close, drop the torpedo, and veer off. And the way they would get taken out, the German ships would shoot at the ocean, and the wake would take out the plane.
So what's the loss of life out of Russia of World War II? I've heard 25 million, but I put it at more like 45 million.
Well, 45, that includes civilians. I think if you combine the civilians and military, it's probably 40. I don't know. I wasn't there. I was born later. But
the point is that everybody in, I don't know if you heard me talking about Putin's conference earlier, but that everybody in Russia is touched by World War II and Nazis. Not like the United States. Not where we.
No, nothing like that. And so my father survived through all this, but his wife's suicide completely wigged him out.
Yeah,
and he had severe PTSD. If I knew what I know now, I would have treated them. I probably would have saved both of their lives. So let me give you an example of real stuff that I do now. So when people come, especially special forces guys, so you probably heard this saying. I'm sure you have. When you go to war, the whole family goes to war.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm considering my mother's death. I'm very interested in secondary PTSD. Secondary PTSD is, you can think of PTSD, and I'm going to use that term instead of PTSI just for simplicity. PTSD, you can think of like STD, sexually transmitted disease.
Yeah.
And most people go, well, women come in, they go, I haven't been attacked, I haven't had this. Well, what is it like when your husband comes back from the war or police? Well, he's cranky, and sometimes he's violent, sometimes he's this. Guess what? That can lead to PTSD just like anything else, just like battle. Sure. So there is no difference in the brain. So if you scan the brain, it looks the same in a secondary PTSD woman and a guy who was military. So it's funny. I was giving a speech at Pritzker's, Pritzker's military library. So This guy comes up. I gave that speech about similarity in the brains. He goes, "Are you telling me my PTSD," and he was a vet from Vietnam, "is the same as this woman sitting next to him?" I said, "Are you telling me that a woman that was tied up to a sink and raped for 10 years has less trauma than you from Vietnam? Is that really a discussion you and I want to have?" It was not a pretty discussion. Stupid. Anyway, the bottom line is,
No, you could say,
PTSD
you could argue it's even worse because the trauma is coming from someone you trust and are intimate with, as opposed to
Right.
someone who's wearing a uniform, you know,
Right.
and you have the formality of the state giving you permission to do the violence that you're doing.
Well, you also go back and you have at least the guys be together, right?
Yes, that too. Yeah.
That's
But
very
I remember
different.
early on GWAT, I remember seeing a couple SF guys and a couple Delta guys. And SF and Delta guys are the most psychologically profiled elite units in the military. They're not looking for the best guy; they're looking for the right guy. And there's a particular maturity in special forces and in Delta. And these guys were coming back and killing their wives. So that's a very extreme, but it illustrates your point, I think.
Well, but let me tell you, are you talking about the Afghanistan conflict?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, one thing you may want to remember about that, a lot of that was caused anti-malarials. They got that malarials, that makes them crazy. They had toxicity from anti-malarials. So that's not a fair assessment of that. Plus, I mean, I've taken care of Delta, I've taken care of Green Berets, I've taken care of SEALs. Are you saying SEAL Team 6 guys are different than Delta?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. Yes, I do.
How so? How so? I'm just curious.
How so? Well, having known both of them, I think that the process of selection through Delta is more alone, where the 6 guys are not, and I see the Delta guys as much more mature emotionally.
Okay, I would know. I mean, to me, they're all pretty. I love SOF. I got to tell you, SOF is fascinating.
But yeah, me too. I was in SOCOM up till captain. So then I spent 1 year in the conventional army and left because I was like, oh, this sucks. But yeah. But I was with 7 Special Forces group, and I have worked with, and I've had guys from my tactical unit go to Delta. I've had Delta guys on the show as well. But anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so it's interesting. The other thing you may be interested in this. So I did a SOF experience. SOF experience was 4 days of older guys running around, shooting guns and breaching. So I breached the door with cord, and then I was woozy. So I went to my instructor and I said, "Hey, I'm woozy." He goes, "You're such a wuss. That's called eating a charge."
No, TBI. You got TBI.
I know, I'm getting there. No, that's not just TBI, it's BTBI. If you want to be technical, it's blast traumatic brain injury, which is different than regular TBI.
I got that. I was the #1 guy on a lot of explosive breaching back in the day.
Oh, there you go. So let me tell you why it's relevant. And part of the reason I think a lot of military guys watch your show, so I thought this would be really interesting and instructive. So SOF, everybody does breaching, right? More or less. But so anyway, so my instructor goes, "You're such a wuss. That's just cord. That's crap. We use C4."
Yeah.
C4 in the bunker is very different than that little cord outside blowing the door down. That's not even the same thing. Anyway, so normal person goes, whines, right, and just goes away. I go start to investigate it. Well, it turns out before you finish your SF or SOF training, everybody has BTBI. Going 50 cal gun, breaching, right? Gustav rockets, they all give you.
Before you ever even get into combat, you've got it.
That's the point I'm making. That's exactly right. Anyway, so BTBI does a lot of interesting things, or TBI. So what I did is I've come up with a treatment for SOF condition. So it's called SOF method, go figure. So SOF method is ketamine plus stellate together. So I'm going to get to the stuff I came up with, right? So what happens during trauma, regular trauma, not BTBI, just, let's say you go on patrol, half the squad gets killed off, right? So certain people are going to get PTSD. Why does that happen? Here's two things that happen. One, your fight and flight nervous system gets overactive. So you're hyped up, you can't sleep. But if you have the right genes or you have enough stress or both, you produce something called NGF, nerve growth factor. That produces extra nerve growth in the brain of fight and flight nerves. So instead of 4 you're supposed to have sympathetic nerves, I got 8. Each one of those, yeah. And that's been shown. I can send a literature on that.
Yeah,
So what's interesting then is norepinephrine levels start to rise. Norepinephrine is what gives you a revved up feeling of doom, all of that. So as long as those extra nerve fibers are there, you're going to have that feeling. So we treated a guy who was injured in Vietnam when he was 18. I treated him when he was 70. He went through tons of rehab, all of that stuff. Couldn't make, his family was estranged, all that. We did the block on him. 4 years later, he was still looking really good. And I almost started crying, actually. I saw his son. He came by, gave me a hug. He said, "Thanks for giving my dad back."
Wow.
So what happened there, he was able to get emotions back. So what happens when we do the injection in the neck? By the way, that injection has been around since 1925. It's been more than 100 years that people have been doing around. I've been doing it since 87. So the first guy we treated was not military. He was a victim of a crime. Anyway, what happens when I do numb up the nerve here? So basically what happens is you have sympathetic nerves, fight and flight nerves, come out of the chest, go to this nexus, which is called stellate ganglion. It goes to the brain. That's where those extra nerves are from. When we put local anesthetic in that, two things happen. Norepinephrine level drops in 5-10 minutes, so people feel really calm right after, which is really great. It also reduces NGF, the thing that makes nerves grow, and it can take those extra nerves that's grown, take them away, and it calms people down. And it could last, the longest outlier right now is 17 years.
Wow.
Sometimes it's shorter, but it's variable, right? So that's why I know those guys.
Can we go back to TBI for a second, or VTBI?
Sure.
Is that because I remember seeing that they could see it now with there's a granularity on certain scans. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? I remember that.
Yeah. There is a number of ways to look. You can actually see nerves being ripped. If you have the right tensor analysis, you can actually see a ripping of the nerves, right? Also, when somebody, like I took care of a guy who was brought down twice in unfriendly fire from Peoria. Anyway, his brain, he was 24 years old. His brain looked like he was 60. It was shrunken, and you could see changes in it. That's what happens from TBI when you get brought down for unfriendly fire. He wasn't, not even breaching. He was shot down a couple times. So the point is, yes, you can actually see TBI on the scan. And what it does, it reduces the actual size of the brain. So part of what happens TBI is it reduces PFC, prefrontal cortex, which sits right here. So if you, let's say, using your 50 cal gun, right, it shakes the brain, especially PFC, because it's right there, right?
Yeah.
So PFC is what gives you control as an adult. Also, there is a connection between PFC and the amygdala, so it suppresses it. So if PFC is strong, you can keep your fear and PTSD under control. If PFC is weak, you can't control it and you go cuckoo. What that means is TBI makes PTSD worse. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So what I found is if you combine ketamine, that makes nerves grow, ketamine and stellate together are synergistic. Ketamine does very good things and does some not so good things. So between the two of them, if you think about it, it's like a fertilizer and a weed killer. We just want the good flowers. We want just the good nerves. We don't want the bad nerves, right? So I've treated a bunch of SOF like that, and I've published on that. I called SOF method. That's why just treating PTSD is good, but I think treating PTSD and TBI together makes sense because at least a third, probably maybe half of the guys that came back from Afghanistan and Iraq have TBI mixture, right? They get IEDs, they get shut down, whatever, all the drama that unfortunately occurred. And those guys, all of that stuff leads to increased suicide because people are miserable. Because here's what happens. People with PTSD, which you probably know, can't sleep worth shit, right? They have nightmares, they have all this drama going on. Why? Because the fight or flight nervous system is overactive. And you need to be deep in sleep to clean out the brain. Also, if you don't sleep, increase inflammation. Inflammation inflames the brain. That leads to suicide. You can actually measure the inflammation that correlates to that in blood, right? So stellate reduces inflammation also. Now, interesting.
It is, yes, very very enlightening. So are you approved by the VA, or at least in JSOC or SOCOM with the SOCOM surgeons?
Kinda. Kinda. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We do occasionally take care of some of the guys from the VA. But unfortunately, most of the people I've treated, which has been quite a bit, I've treated probably 1,000 SOF guys by now. The payment either came from just us doing it for free or non-for-profits. We were lucky enough to have an amazing supporter for our non-for-profit called Erase PTSD Now. So if people want to give money to eraseptsdnow.org, we can always looking. Erase PTSD Now.
So give me some of that. I already put PTSI.com. So give me some of that. Will you put that in the chat too, please? Thank you.
Yes, me? Yeah, I'll send it to you. Sure.
No, I'm asking my audience
My
audience already put it's PTSI.com in the chat. Now I'm going to have them put that in the chat.
Yeah, eraseptsdnow.org is the website. So no donation too big, no donation too small. But so to give you a direct answer, SOCOM and those guys, I mean, do they approve me? No. I mean, keep in mind, Fort Bragg has done probably 2,000 stellates for their guys. Lynchheim Hospital is doing it in Germany. Tripler Hospital is doing it in Hawaii. People are doing it. They're not doing SOF method yet, and I'm hoping they will wake up to that. There is a study being done.
Are you going to the SOCOM conferences and stuff?
No, because it's just too frustrating for me. I mean, there's so many times I want to hit my head into the wall. But I mean, they're doing. But the great news, we had an amazing support from an amazing couple, Linda and Glenn Greenbergs. They gave us enough money to do the study that the VA should have been doing 7 years ago. The idea is to do studies doing functional MRI, like a brain scan, like a real high-power brain scan, before and after the block. Because people are still like, well, is it placebo? Is it real? Is it not real? They're still debating it because it's so weird for them that something that simple could be a solution. That should be at about 3 months. And I think a lot of things will change at that time. But meanwhile, people are suffering. So I'd like to help as many as I can.
So who put that in the chat? Ropo did. Thanks, Ropo. So all your websites you're mentioning are now in the Rumble chat.
Thank you.
So I guess part of it is the MRI stuff, or whether it's an 18 Delta, Special Forces 18 Delta, or whether it's a PA or a SOCOM surgeon. MRI, the access to the equipment to diagnose this stuff does not happen in their lane.
No, I mean, the MRIs I'm talking about is experimental. I'm not suggesting doing it for everybody. Each scan is about $5,000. It's not worth it. It's easy to diagnose PTSD. I mean, basically, you ask them a bunch of questions called PCL5. Diagnosis is no problem. The problem is a lot of people who are in charge of the money and the control and whatever are saying, well, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's working. I think it's bullshit. So somebody need to do like a real study. The real study costs a lot of money. So that study is all, I mean, they've been doing it for 3 years. And NYU, big institution, big scanners, big reputation. So once that comes out, I think we're going to be okay. My point is we're almost there to get there. But meanwhile, if people who are listening have PTSD and TBI, BTBI, whatever, know there is hope, number one, because people do not kill themselves, they have hope. Number two, don't let anybody believe that PTSD is some kind of bullshit stigmatic thing. It's not. You have a real condition that is real. It exists in your brain. You can actually see it, right? So I am a doctor. I may not be a standard doctor, but I'm definitely a doctor, and I do know what I'm talking about. I gave a speech in Congress. They called me nincompoop, basically, in 2010. And I told them, it's like, data is going to prove me right. And guess what? Data is proving me right. It's been replicated. There was a study done from Bragg and published from Bragg, Tripler, and Lynchheim. It came out in 2019. But they did not have the FMR in it. And that's why people go, interesting, but still bullshit.
Who published this study at Bragg? SOCOM surgeons or trauma medicine?
That was SOCOM. Yeah, that was Bragg led. Yeah,
and so
that came out in JAMA, which is big medical publication.
Yeah,
it was SOCOM surgeons. Yeah. So and still ignored, right?
Is it the injection, or is it the process, or is it both that is your method of treatment?
Well, it's primarily my method of treatment is the injection. Used to be still SGB, cell ganglion block. Now we call it DSR. 2 levels seems to be more effective. But the idea is when people have a diagnosis of PTSD, we're not saying lying on the couch, let's talk about it. None of that craziness. The idea is that your fight and flight system is overactive. When people tell me about the trauma, I tell them, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You don't need to relive your trauma, right? Because a lot of people go, it's like, oh my God, I have to talk about it again. It's going to drive me nuts. I don't care. It's like, I don't care why the leg is broken. I used to be a trauma surgeon. If a leg is broken by a hammer or a jump out airplane, it's still broken. You guys still fix it. It doesn't matter how you broke it. Same thing here.
And you got funding from Greenberg, as you said?
Yes.
Donations?
There were, so amazing people who have been supporting the military for years. And then they got us enough funding to do like a real study. I gave that money to NYU, and that's almost done, which is beautiful. I think once it's out, I think we're going to save a lot more lives.
So it's the reason I'm asking is because not only are veterans watching this show, but I also work in the competitive intelligence space. I have since 2014 in the GRIN, genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology space, but primarily in the genetic space, only for the good guys. But there's other guys who are watching these shows who are investors and angels, particularly in biotech as well. And so I'm very familiar, not with you in detail, but with the process. It's very expensive to get anything through a system.
Oh yeah,
especially if you got to get permission from the FDA.
Well, the good news about this is old stuff, right? The anesthetic we use is bupivacaine. It's been used since 1973. So that's not the barrier. The barrier is payers are not paying for the guys to be treated. That's the main barrier here. That's a different story.
Yeah, and do you know why?
Yeah, of course. Follow the money and prestige.
Because you're a danger to big pharma.
I'm aware.
Because if you successfully treat, then you're taking big pharma out of $1 billion loop.
$1 billion? You're right. Much more than that. Well, actually, I thought I was going to get whacked. My first 5 years. Now it's too many people doing it, so I don't think that would be interesting. But I really was pretty afraid that someone was going to take me out after I did my testimony in 2010.
There's a lot of assassinations within corporate sabotage and espionage, particularly in the biotech space.
I don't know. I'm not involved in it now. If they kill me, it's not going to help them, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's where we were at. But I think that I really do appreciate you doing that. If I may, can I throw in a little bit about digital toxicity? I have a couple of things.
Yes, I do. I wanted to get to that. I was so fascinated with what you were talking about and I also wanted to mention, I think it's worse now because when I was number one guy, I had a blast shield, and now they don't use blast shields anymore. Supposedly because they figured out the thickness of the material of the doors, they've got that all figured out now. In my day, it was more like, 2 is 1, 1 is none, use plenty. But they don't use blast shields anymore. So I think it's worse now than it ever was. That may be somewhat countered by the electronic ears that they're using now.
I don't know. I don't know that part of it. Anyway, let me tell you about
let's hear about the digital poisoning. Let's please get to that.
Yeah. So the reason I got into it is because my kid, he's 23, and all of a sudden he said, I think this digital stuff is bad for me. So he started building Legos and doing like Dungeons and Dragons, no screens. So I've started looking into it. Turns out like 10 to 15% of Gen Zs are getting dumb phones. They're trying to get away from all the digital stuff that sucks them in.
What's the percentage again?
15%.
Wow.
15. It's a huge number.
Yes.
They're also coming up with about 20%, I think, are interested in buying apps. It's called bricking, making a phone a brick. Bricking. So bricking in the 90s used to be called, the device became a brick, became useless, right? So now it's deactivating the functionality of phone to something less than full function because it sucks people in. The way it's happening is the algorithms by the big companies like Meta and things like that, I know for doom scrolling, they're potentially getting you hooked. So there's a lot of different terms people are using. So the term I'm interested in is called digital toxicity. It's a broad term. I'm also writing a book right now that should be out in about a month. It's called.
Well, I want to have you back when that comes out to talk about that too.
I'll come back. That'd be great. Digital brain rot is the name of the book. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, so I submitted an article that talks about PTSD and digital PTSD as the same thing, the same biology, right? It's inflammation. Both cause inflammation. So heavy use of phones is associated with increased suicide rate. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Heavy use of phones is associated with brain shrinkage. Interesting. PTSD is associated with brain shrinkage and suicide. Isn't that interesting? Same thing.
Yes.
By the way, for those angel investors that you're talking about, I have a super duper app I'm developing. This will be MVP form of it, will be available in 6 weeks. If people are interested in investing in that, I have the latest and the greatest, supposedly best. It's called new class, hopefully, of bricking apps. So bricking, if you have the right bricking app, you can actually save lives. Meaning people are trying to use dumb phones, right? Like a flip phone. The problem is that, like one of my medical students said, I'd like to buy a flip phone. First of all, it's expensive. I don't want to carry 2 devices, but other things, I can't park or do banking. I can't do anything because everything is so digital now, right?
Yes.
So that's why it's important to have the right bricking apps. But I think digital toxicity. Oh, the last thing I need to tell you is I'm going to be having, I'm trying to do there is a PTSD day in Illinois that was started in 2013. PTSD day is June 27th. Then 10 years later, another Governor Pritzker, called June 27th PTSI day. You know why? We've been talking about PTSI, right? That was 2023. I want to name June 28th, the next day, digital toxicity day, because right now people are using different terms. Because if you're going to have an awareness campaign, you need to have one term, not 10.
Yes.
Digital toxicity, right, is I think the best. Brain rot, okay. Digital dementia, okay. But you need to have something that's all encompassing. So if you have any ideas how to promote that, I would love those ideas because I'm trying to get that going.
Well, so email me about your app as well, and I will, because I can guarantee you are people, there are CEOs in the biotech space that are watching this show or will watch this show.
That'd be great,
That
because
I've worked.
it's a big deal. You know that
It is a big deal. Yeah. Yeah, I
I've
mean,
learned.
besides the Faraday bags, I also use and have my kids use the EMF proof, so they don't have those things right against their bodies.
Smart.
And limit that.
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah, but I'm really interested in to hear more about your app as well.
I've learned a lot about business recently. Total available market TAM for those people who are financial. You know what it is for breaking app breaking? 420 million people.
Really?
That's a total available. I mean, yeah, right. Because it's Canada, right? It's North America and United States. So you're looking at Gen Z and millennials. That's how the numbers break down. There's 50 million millennials, about 50 million Gen Zs in the United States. That's 100 million right there. But then if you take North Europe and Canada together, 420 million. So if you have the right answer, I think there's a large number of them will be interested in that type of app.
Yes.
Those are big numbers. That's a big numbers.
Those metrics are real important. I can see you've given this a lot of thought. Yeah, you are learning about business. But as a competitive intelligence guy, that's one of the first things I say is you're a direct threat to big pharma in the billions. And so
that's stellar. Yeah, this is different. PTSD. I mean, my software has nothing to do with that, of course.
Right.
That's a different story. But I mean, the thing is, if you think about the analogy of the same thing, just the whole concept that PTSD, real PTSD from battle, from assault, and digital PTSD is the same. Isn't that an interesting concept?
It is.
Biologically, it's the same thing. The symptoms are the same. Nobody can sleep. Sleep is huge.
Sleep, I'm familiar. I'm familiar. Yes. Yeah. Give me some of that. Yeah. Above phone. I've been thinking about having Hakeem Afar on as well. Brian Hubbard. I don't know who that is. De-Googled. Yeah. Pixel de-Googled phones as well. Yeah. Those are alternatives to all of that. Fascinating. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lipov, for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
Great story. And I've already posted Stella on my Patreon and locals, but where else can people follow you?
So if you go to dr.eugenelipov.com, that's my main website with everything on it. So my Substack, I think, is great. So if you want to read some detailed articles on that, you can find that in Substack. And then also I have Instagram account, X, all the usual accounts. It's at Dr. Eugene Lipov. Simple. Excellent.
Well, thank you so much. And on behalf of all my brother and sister veterans, I really appreciate what you're doing and the groundwork, because I've lost several friends. I'm even wearing a memorial bracelet. So thank you so much.
And thank you for your service.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
God bless. All right. Well, that's a fascinating show. Really interesting. Hey, guys, I only recommend products that I personally use and believe in. And one of those products is Masculine Man Deodorant. Like a lot of you, I got tired of natural deodorants that smell good for a few hours and then quit working. Masculine Man is different. It is aluminum free, made in America, smells incredible, and most importantly, it actually lasts all day when I'm out on the farm. What I really like is it smells more like a premium cologne than a typical deodorant. My personal favorite is the bourbon scent, but honestly, they are all solid. If you're looking for a deodorant that smells great, supports the American economy, give Masculine Man a try. Use my code JP10 at checkout and save 10% on your order. Masculine Man, be awesome. Don't stink. It's just about the size of a 203 grenade. And so I also wanted to cover a couple of other items here as well. NASA is running low altitude flights over Houston, and some of my peers think those are EP-3E Ares repainted, allegedly given to NASA, flying a grid pattern over Houston at about 300 to 500 feet for nuclear sniffing. So with the congressional vote on the Section 224 happening today in the NDAA, this may be the Israelis who have snuck nukes in. I've talked before about my periods that brought in 4 nukes circa 9/11 through the port of Houston at the same time. The U.S. given free stuff. And of course, initially that stuff came out of American labs. Is this maybe, hey, the nukes are around, the SATMs, the small atomic demolition munitions, to blackmail Trump and Congress into going ahead with this, which is verification with these disguised planes. That's the connection I am making there, if that makes sense. Jadkins, fascinating. I need to rewatch again. Yes, Dr. Lipov had a lot to say. Really having a lot of great guests these days as well. Also, don't forget to go to staybrewedcoffee.com. We just got ours in. Great Christian constitutional family. Dad's got 7 daughters. And you can save 20% at teamamericacoffee.com. It is really excellent coffee. Go try that as well. I'm using my Stay Brewed cup today. And love coffee. I'm a real coffee snob, having drank a lot of cop coffee, Indian coffee, army coffee, terrible coffee. I really like good coffee now. So as America's 250th anniversary approaches, it's time to separate those who disdain this country from those who thank God for having been born here. Notice that the major faces representing the corporate news machine have decided to use this magnificent anniversary as a time for reflection about the different ways the country and its people have somehow let those faces down. Instead of appreciating how innovators and producers transformed the United States into the wealthiest nation that has ever existed, the faces talk about material inequality and the virtues of collective ownership. It's odd that people whose wealth and fame would be possible in no other country in the world find it so easy to ignore their historical debts. What does it say about those people who spend all their time criticizing a nation that has done more to secure the blessings of human liberty than any other on earth? Slavery was real. Jim Crow was real. So was Jefferson's Declaration of self-evident truths, that all men are created equal. These are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. White men once owned black slaves. So did black men, and Africans sold Africans into slavery. Some 650,000 white men, roughly 2% of America's population, died fighting in the Civil War. Americans have fought and bled against each other and against the armies of oppressive governments around the world to advance the cause of human freedom. No nation has sacrificed so much so that strangers might be free. When will the university professors, journalists, and pundits realize that they are part of a dwindling social clique obsessed with race? When American soldiers reach out to save a brother, they do not care. The color of the skin covers the hand reaching back. Americans fight and die for other Americans. And the ones who do the sacrificing, fighting, and dying never stop to think about race. The call goes out that Americans in trouble and Americans of every color, united by common heritage, volunteer to rescue Americans of every color. Who could look at America's greatness from beyond its borders and not marvel at the ideals for which America's peoples fight and the feats its people have accomplished? Was this not the story of the poor immigrant journeying to America's shores? Is it not true of so many who wish to become Americans today? It's vexing that the month of June has been colonized for so-called LGBTQ pride and Juneteenth, none of which I will be celebrating or I will have my family celebrate. Should one feel a strong heartbeat when the Star-Spangled Banner plays? Yeah, I do. I tear up, and I'll say so. Deprived of America's accomplishments, the LGBTQ crowd would have nowhere to crow. Their pride is insular and selfish. Their rainbow flag is small next to Old Glory. Their self-adulation and self-worship are vulgar, laid next to the selfless heroism and stoic sacrifice of all Americans who have traded their lives so that this generation might be strong. The LGBTQ preeners pay tribute to themselves, but Americans who deserve to be proud have paid tribute to their families, towns, and countries. Self-government and personal freedom are not patriarchal. They are achievable pursuits. Civic virtue is not patriarchal, parochial. It is inspirational. Patriotism is not toxic, racist, or white supremacist. It is the front of heroic sacrifice. We Americans have seen and done more than most because Americans who came before us saw and did more than most. It is in this tradition, whereby one American generation grabs the baton from another before and pushes forward, that American exceptionalism becomes the standard that reshapes the world. Those who do not recognize what a tremendous honor it is to live here are unworthy of America's gifts. Those who criticize America's past from luxurious perches built by America's past builders are foolish. Those who celebrate themselves rather than our American ancestors are unprincipled. In the 250th year of this nation's life, reach down and grab its soil, breathe its air, enjoy the essence of this country's history and indomitable spirit of its people. Those who love this country will protect its future. Those who wish to destroy this country love only themselves. Patriots pay no heed to the destroyers. Be builders instead. Because freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So, take it.